Today, we talk about a major story on how the children of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. are taking new steps to control and profit the images of their father. Some folks say steps that could interfere with this year's 50th anniversary of the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Now, in the past, actually how the story really got started was I was going to the website of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Foundation, MLKmemorial.org, and I said I wanted to research some stuff, and all of a sudden, the site wasn't there. Began to make some phone calls to find out what the deal was, and begin to realize that what actually took place was they no longer could use that site. That's what got us started talking about this story. Of course, that foundation, they were the ones who raised more than $100 million through small and large fundraisers all across the country to build a memorial for the first African American on the National Mall. And so this is a very interesting story that details ownership rights, copyrights, licensing, and it's one that we want to get into with our panel right now, and that is Joseph Williams. He joins us right here, a journalist who's often been on the show. Syndicated columnist George Curry joins us as well. And, of course, Armstrong Williams, the right side as well. And all at George and Armstrong, both of you have written on this topic as well, and so it's one of the reasons we want to talk about it. As I laid out, at the outset, if you went to the site, that's where they had the virtual tour and the fundraisers. All of a sudden, it wasn't there, and we began to make phone calls. And Joseph, we've been working on this story for about 4 months. And what's interesting is that the foundation they were trying to get the license renewed with the King children to continue to use the name and likeness of Dr. King, and the decision was made not to allow them to continue using the license.
That's exactly right. And one of the reasons why the decision was made was because the King family very tightly controls the image of Dr. Martin Luther King. The foundation was trying to negotiate with MLK Inc., the foundation that accepts money from
King Inc. Yes.
King Inc. Beg your pardon. King Inc. that takes money and is basically, some might say, the for-profit arm of the King children and what they're trying to do with their father's legacy. Now, when they try to renegotiate licensing for this website, all they wanted to do was get a website up so they can receive donations, so they could actually promote events that they have related to the King nonviolent social change vision, have guest speakers in, have lectures, kids tours, that sort of thing. Went away overnight.
Now, when we put this story on the website, I got a call on Friday morning from Trish Harris, who said that she was the person who negotiated the original license. She said the original license always called for the license to expire after the monument was built, and that this is really no big deal, and that the King family, the King Center, wanted to be able to control the programming, and the foundation was just about putting up the memorial. But the foundation says, wait a minute, we wanted to continue this thing because to continue advancing the legacy. George, you've written about this as well. Your thoughts on this whole issue as it relates to licensing with the foundation and the King family as well?
Let's back up. I don't know any descendants of Lincoln or Jefferson who tried to profit from the fact that there's a monument on the mall. So the King family, the King children, is taking unprecedented action.
Now, $2.7 million was paid by the foundation to the King children. And talking to Trish, when she called me, she said, well, that really was for the corporations who were using the likeness of King on billboards and things along those lines. That's what the license agreement says. That's what that money was for. It wasn't necessarily to use the quotes and the likeness of King.
She's lying up front. We'll talk about lying with you in a few minutes. But basically, the idea, one, as I said before, nobody else tries to profit from that. Secondly, they did make several $1 million on this, and all they want to do is say, let's extend it. You charging us to use this likeness and for using these quotes. Let's extend that and to do the work. And they said no, because they want to shift the emphasis to the King Center, where all of them, each one of the kids who are alive now, who have been directed and been a total failure.
Now, Armstrong, first of all, again, we made the point, Joseph has tried to reach out to the King children to get interviews. We were promised that was going to happen. It didn't happen. I called Bernice King, text her, also Martin Luther King III, and could not reach them as well. I have never met Dexter King, so we couldn't reach out to him. And also for our audience, for the purpose of disclosure, look, Alpha's led this whole issue. I'm a life member of Alpha. I helped the foundation raise money, but also I've helped the King Center at their fundraisers and wrote a blurb for the book Bernice King put out on her mother as well. You've written about this, Armstrong. You also have talked to Bernice. You talked to the King children. Your thoughts about this whole issue of licensing and them being able charging folks, and to George's point, folks who say you're profiting off of his legacy.
Listen, of course, I have tremendous respect for George and what he writes and obviously I can see how things can be misconstrued. I have been involved with the King children, and I don't want to call them children, adults, for the last 5 years. I mean, and for the better part of their lives, they were almost destitute. I mean, look, everybody has benefited from the King family, benefited from the King name. They just wanted to put in measures where they have more control and more say-so how their fathers and their mothers' image is used in this country. They've never profited from no, I have a dream. They've never charged schools for I have a dream. It has not happened. And there's a legitimate argument with this King Foundation. But in terms of the Kings making a lot of money, like millions of dollars, Ms. Harris was absolutely correct. It's the corporations that make their money. Money. The King children personally are not benefited and profiting from the King name.
Now, Armstrong, no, we now, of course, several years ago, when there were some of King's papers that were going to go up for auction. Dexter King was going to put those up. Sotheby's was going to auction. The city of Atlanta paid upwards of $35 million for those papers. That money went to the King children.
But at the time, there was a conflict between Dexter and his siblings. And part of that conflict was at the time was just exactly how he was implementing that, and that it was not necessarily for the benefit of the King legacy and what they were trying to do with the King Center and everything else.
So who did the $32 million go to? I'm just curious.
It did not go to the King children.
The $32 million from the city of Atlanta that paid?
Look, some of them may have benefited, but the majority of them did not. I don't want to get into too many. It's just true. They did not.
Hold on.
They did not.
Hold on.
The money did not go to them.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you. Let me finish.
Okay, George.
Now, look, the money went to the King. They did money go there. The thing about the money is the papers ended up going to Morehouse. If Dr. King were alive, he probably would have donated to his alma mater.
Well, first of all, when he was alive, he donated papers then to Boston University.
And so here it is. They're going to sell the papers. The mayor steps in and says, we're going to pay for it. We're going to donate to Morehouse. And they did go directly to the entity representing the King children. And another thing, I got to get straight with you, because you lied on me. You were a columnist and said I said that they were charging for I Have a Dream speech to the schools. You said that in print. I got it here with me. That's an absolute lie, because I wrote a column about this, and I didn't even mention the word school in the whole column.
Now, speaking of I Have a Dream speech, I talked to Clarence Jones, who helped Dr. King with the speech, and he was a personal advisor and a lawyer. He said when he wanted to use the I Have a Dream speech in his book, that they wanted to charge him $20,000. He said, wait a minute, I'm the guy who copyrighted the speech, who paid for the copyright. He sent us a copy of the actual speech, the actual certificate. He said that he indemnified the small publishing company. They were afraid to get sued. He said, I'm going to dare them to sue me. I will pay for all damages. He said it never happened. And so he said, now, wait a minute. If I'm the guy who helped Dr. King write the speech, I'm the one who copyrighted it. He said, without me, they couldn't charge anybody for the I Have a Dream speech if I didn't get the copyright.
Listen, I said schools and libraries. Individuals is a different kind of situation, and everyone is treated the same. Look, I don't understand why there's this harshness against King's children. I just don't understand that. It seems so personal. Why?
It gets into several questions, though, Armstrong, because you're not only talking about intellectual property rights, you're also talking about who owns history. You're talking about an individual who changed the course of America. You're talking about people who are seeking to honor his legacy, especially with the monument on the mall. I mean, that seems like that's.
Well, why can't they manage it and benefit like everybody else has? What is wrong with them running like a business?
First of all, actually, with the monument, once it is built, it's controlled by the U.S. Park Service.
That has been another debate.
But I'm saying, but the U.S. Park Service is responsible for the upkeep of any monuments on the National Mall, and so you don't have. So the Kings couldn't control the monument because that's the Park Service's job.
But look, they should be happy. The Harry Johnson and the Alpha. I'm not Alpha. It's football sci-fi. That's what I play. They should be happy. Anybody would take this on with those tremendous art and the money that was required to do this as a monument from Dr. King, and they're looking to turn every turn and see how much money can get. That's what it is.
It is so unfortunate that you're trying to paint them as greedy people who don't care about the legacy of their parents. They only care about lining their pockets. It's not true. But it's not true. You're trying to. What you're doing is unfair.
No, I'll tell you what's unfair, Armstrong.
They are not greedy, and they're not prospering.
I'll tell you what's unfair. It's unfair when you say that I basically. Let me just use your term. Let's use your quote.
Maligning them.
No, that's not what you said. I'll use the word you said
false accusations.
Hold on, Armstrong. You said slander the family. That's what you said I did. And first of all, you should know the difference between slander and libel. Slander is oral. Libel was actually written. And you said, and I quote, for Mr. Curry to spread the falsehood that the King family is charging schools for the I Have a Dream speech is not only wrong but hurtful and embarrassing. I never used the word schools at all. I didn't refer to it. And if you can find that, I will give you $5,000. If you can't, you give me $5,000.
Well,
take me up on it.
My apologies if I misquoted you. And I accept responsibility for that, and I take it back. But still, it is unfair to paint them as greedy and selfish and that they're prospering and making all this money,
Joseph,
because they're not. They're
also,
still struggling.
But you also have to understand that the context in which this is occurring makes a big difference, because you're not talking about cooperation at the inception. You're also talking about people who, or an entity that's suing people who have individual rights, who have collections that may have been given to them personally.
And you're referring to the Howard Ballou situation in Jackson, Mississippi anchor, where the King family, King Inc. sued him over some papers his mother had. A federal judge a couple of weeks ago ruled in favor that he can keep those particular papers, and that suit angered a lot of civil rights leaders. I can tell you that.
I will be the first to say that there are some instances where they've used terrible judgment. They have done things that they have regretted. They have a team in place that they're trying to correct many of these mistakes. That's one issue. There are many things they can do better, but they're not greedy. They're not selfish, and they care about their parents' legacy, and they're doing all they can to preserve it.
One of the things they can do is actually talk to us. I mean, we've reached out many times.
We reached out. They talked to us.
I really would like to sit down with them, because again, it is an issue that has been written about and discussed for several years. It's not just with us, even going back 5-10 years. And I do think it's a worthy conversation.
Well, let's make that happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Please.
Not a problem.
Let's make it happen.
Gentlemen, I'm out of time. I certainly appreciate it. Joseph Williams, George Curry Armstrong Williams, thanks a bunch.